We are live. Hi, everyone, and welcome to our first virtual sale college and career workshop. We're so happy to have all of you here. So my name is Megan Faulkner, and I am the program manager for the Summer Academy to Inspire Learning, or the SAIL program at the University of Oregon. And we're going to kick off our series today with a fabulous guest speaker. We have Jessica Oxher with us today. She is the College and Career Center Advisor at Thurston High School here in Springfield, Oregon. And before we get started, I just want to remind everyone watching that this presentation is totally for you. So please use the chat function on our YouTube page. If you have any questions, just go ahead and pop those in there. We have our wonderful sales staff who are monitoring the chat, and we'll make sure your questions get asked and you get answers to anything you're curious about towards the end of the presentation. And then after this session, I also just wanted to remind everyone that we do have another session, our Ask Our College Student Experts Q&A. And that'll begin at 3 p.m. on the same live streaming page. And we'll have a panel of our SAIL mentors who are current college students, and they can answer your questions about the college process, life after high school, and kind of any tips and tricks that they've picked up along the way. So lots of good stuff for you this afternoon. So without any further ado, I would love to turn it over to Jessica to introduce herself and to get us started. Thanks for joining us.
All right, thank you, Megan. So I am so excited to kick off this series. What a great presentation we have for you guys today. We're going to talk all about how to set yourself up for success, and we're going to just dive right into it. So to get started, I just want to talk a little bit about myself. Who am I, and why should you listen to anything I have to say today, right? So I am, as Megan said, the College and Career Advisor at Thurston High School. This is my third year with Thurston. But prior to that, I was actually a recruiter, a campus recruiter for a CPA firm. And so I worked with a lot of different colleges, hiring interns and full-time staff throughout the Western United States. And so I got to work with a lot of college students. And I also got to work on developing our firm's scholarships, which we awarded 5 to 10 scholarships per school. So I have a lot of experience with college and scholarships and all of that. And on top of that, I have 2 college students myself who are both currently debt-free because of scholarships and different grants and things like that. So I feel like I have a little bit of expertise, but there's definitely always things that I'm learning. So hopefully I will share some tips and tricks with you, and I'm happy to answer any of the questions that you guys have today. So with that, let's just dive right into it and talk about success. So one thing I want you guys to know is success looks different for everybody. No student is the same, no path is the same. And that is what is truly exciting for me in my job, is because everybody is unique. So let's talk about it. We're gonna look at the post-graduation plans. What are your goals? How are you gonna get there? What you can do now to set yourself up for success, and also set yourself apart from others. And then we're going to discover strategies to stay organized and develop great habits. So when I'm talking to students about post-high school goals, there's some different options. So there's different options for different people. I mentioned that before. There's some students that are ready to go straight into a 4-year university, like the University of Oregon, right out of high school. There's some students that are going to want to go to a 2-year school, so a community college. Other students might decide they want to go into a trade or an apprenticeship or go right into the workforce. And then there are students that also want to go into the military. So there's lots of different options for you guys to choose from, and I'm going to talk about all of those today. The first one is college. And, you know, these are some benefits that when I'm talking to students, I'm bringing up to them, because I want to make sure that they don't think about just the cost and just campus life and things like that, but they're really looking big picture, looking beyond the classroom. So I have a lot of notes, and I'm going to kind of walk through all of this. This is a lot of information that I'm going to be throwing your way. So just kind of sit back and take it all in. Okay, so the first point here is your increased access to job opportunities. Now, I've learned this firsthand through being that recruiting manager and hiring manager and getting to work with students. So, some statistics: college grads have 50% more opportunities than students that are coming straight out of high school. Okay, 80 jobs that are posted, 80% of the jobs that are posted online require a degree. Now, 50% are non-degree. I know there's a little differentiation in numbers in there, but trust me, these numbers have been checked 3 or 4 times. So what that says to me is it's making it harder for the student, or excuse me, the individual that doesn't have a degree to connect with an employer. Okay, so you're going to have more jobs posted for people that have a degree, a bachelor's degree or a master's degree or what have you. You also, under that job opportunity category, you're going to have an expanded network. And the reason for that is you are going to meet tons and tons of other students, peers. You're going to have advisors, you're going to have professors, you're also going to have mentors. Okay, so your job opportunities just expanded from walking into the classroom because of all of these networks that you're building. Okay. The next one that we have is preparation for a specialized career. Now, you might wonder kind of what that looks like, and you think about education or journalism or architecture. These are jobs that you need a specialized education in order to pursue your career, okay? So as industries evolve, like technology and healthcare, you need that specialized training that only you can get from a university, which is going to get you your bachelor's degree, and maybe you're going to go on for maybe a PhD or an MBA or whatever it is. You're also going to have that increased marketability. We already talked about the network that you're going to develop. But in addition to that, you're going to have a competitive edge against other people that may be looking for that position. And the reason for that is you're going to develop exceptional communication skills. You're going to develop leadership skills, critical thinking, problem solving, and analytical skills. Now, some of you might be wondering what all that means, and that's what you're going to learn in college. That's what I learned in the classes that I take. You're going to develop these skills that you've never even heard of, and that is going to be great marketing for you. So let's talk about that earning potential. Everybody wants to make some money, and everybody wants to have that lifestyle that is very comfortable. With a degree, and let's just talk about an associate's degree that you can get at a 2-year school. Your average salary for a year is about $25,000 to $30,000 a year. But if you go to a university and get your bachelor's degree, that all of a sudden jumps up to about $50,000. That's average. Now, when I was hiring people, we would start them at $60,000. Okay, so that was about 5 years ago, and it's inflated since then. So you can see the difference between getting your associate's degree and getting your bachelor's degree. So then we want to look at stability. Okay, the economy fluctuates, things happen, and with that, job stability fluctuates too. Unemployment rates go up and down. What we're seeing in the trend is that the number of people that have a degree have more stability when the economy is a little more fluctuated, I'll say. There's lower unemployment for those who have a degree versus those that don't, and they really have more security in their future, whether it's just from their salary or just having benefits or what have you. So let's talk back about networking opportunities. I mentioned this a lot because really networking and jobs and careers is really who you know. And so before we were on, Megan was talking about a job fair that she was on, and that made me think of how many job fairs I went to and met students and networked with students and built those relationships. Those are opportunities that you get through a university. You also have internship opportunities. There's opportunities for volunteering and getting involved in different clubs that are part of that campus life. those are all things that will help you in your future, that could really help you in getting a job, but advancing in a job as well. So then we look at advancement and that pathway to advancement. So if you think about going to school, that is your stepping stone into your future career. So maybe your first step is getting accepted to college, getting that degree, and maybe you want to move on and get your master's or your MBA or your PhD, or maybe you just need that degree so you can get your foot in the door to that job and then advance within that company. That is all things that will happen when you get your bachelor's degree, and a huge benefit. So personal growth and improvement, and this is one that I love because I'm very much into continuing to grow throughout my life and learning and things like that. So the additional skills that you gain from a college experience, whether it's writing skills, time management, learning how to work in teams, the opportunity to polish those presentation skills, you're learning how to network. It's very intimidating to go talk to a professor and ask them for help, going for advising and all that kind of stuff. But you're really honing in on those skills and you're polishing them and you're building that network once again. So it's really important. It also is empowering. It builds confidence. I have seen, my son is a junior this year at the U of O, and I have seen such a difference in his confidence level, and watching him give presentations now blows my mind from where he was when he was in high school. It's also known that the people who have a degree are more involved with things like volunteer work, community service, board members, and just charitable organizations. So if that's something that maybe is interesting to you, you'd like to get involved with that stuff, you're probably going to appreciate that even more once you go through your college experience. So job satisfaction, that is a huge thing for me. Like I said before, I was in my prior position for 20 years. You don't stay in a position for 20 years if you don't love it. And 86% consider, those 86% of those with a college degree consider their job something they value, something that they love, versus 57% high school graduates who are just working right out of school don't feel that same. You know, there's only 50% between versus 86%. So that's a big difference in my opinion of people that really love their job. And there's a lot of people that just work to work or work for a paycheck. And I've never been that person. I've always loved what I've done because it's in my field, in my wheelhouse. So that's what you're after. Let's see, we've got some other, 42% of high school graduates say they just have their job to pay their bills, that it's not satisfying them. That is a number that really makes me sad, and I would not want that for you guys. So that last bullet point, positive return on investment. So I know college is expensive. I know it's an investment, but it's an investment in you, and it's so well worth it because the outcome, it's going to be night and day, and you're going to be so excited. So 72% of college graduates that have a degree, a bachelor's degree, believe that their degree has paid off. Okay, it's easier for them to be employed, and the cost of college is an investment in their future. So hopefully those are some things that you maybe didn't think about when you're thinking about, should I go to college? Should I go to a 4-year versus a 2-year? Because I think these are really great points and things that you should be thinking about now. All right, so college looks different for everybody. Some people will go to college straight out of school to a 4-year. Some will go to a 2-year and transfer. Some will go to a 2-year and be done. I have a student in both. I have one that is a 4-year and one that's starting in community college and then is going to transfer. Degree options are a little bit different, so you're going to want to research, that. But basically, you're looking at a bachelor's degree versus an associate's degree. Campus life is obviously going to be different as well. College is, it's one of my favorite places to be. I love just campus life. I love the clubs, the sports, the residents, everything about campus. Community college, a 2-year college, is going to be a little different. It's going to be smaller. There's going to be less options. Doesn't mean it's bad or good. You just have to decide what's best for you, okay? Class sizes are going to be a little bit bigger, probably quite a bit bigger at the 4-year school. But as you move up, those class sizes are smaller. So where you start off, you may have larger groups. My son is now a junior and he maybe has 20 kids in his class, some of them 15, because he's just in his marketing and business classes. Class sizes at a 2-year school are going to be a little bit different. They're going to be a little bit smaller. So again, something to think about. The tuition cost is obviously going to be a little less at a 2-year school. And that's just because of, what you're paying for is, you have the faculty at a university, the campus life, the sports, all of those things you're paying for. And so again, it just matters what is best for you. There's scholarship opportunities at both schools, whether it's a 4-year or 2-year. Most institutions will have their own scholarships, and then there's private scholarships, community scholarships, national scholarships as well. So maybe college isn't for you. Maybe you're thinking you want to go into a trade. And a trade would be something like welding or beauty school, mechanical school, and that's where you actually are using your hands to learn a trade. Now there's still tuition for that. And a lot of students are surprised when I say, okay, well, have you looked at financial aid? Have you done your FAFSA? Because they still apply at a trade school. And if that's the route you want to take, that's great. We need all people. There's also the apprenticeships. Now, an apprenticeship is basically where you have a job. So maybe you are working as an electrician and the company has hired you, and then that company will pay for your education. So you work during the day, you get paid, and then the company pays for you to go to school in the evening. There's only certain companies that are in apprenticeships. So you're going to talk to your apprenticeship coordinator about that and make sure you're connected with a company. And there is a lengthy process to get in that. So it's typically you're not going to go straight from high school into an apprenticeship. There is an application process that happens every fall, and you need a certain number of points to get in there. So typically students will get an associate's degree while they're building points to get into their apprenticeship. So just something to know. There's a lot of students that are not ready to, further their education for whatever reason, and they might decide to go straight into the workforce, and that is perfectly fine. I love helping kids find a job that is sustainable and help them pay the bills, and if that's what they want to do, that is great. And then there's a lot of students that are interested in serving our country through the military, and maybe that's through the Army or the Marines, the Navy, Air Force, National Guard, or Coast Guard. Those are different levels of commitment. They have different benefits and should be explored with a recruiter. All right, so there's all of these things. Now, how do you get there? So one thing that I will say is if you are able to fit in your schedule to taking College Now and AP classes, I highly recommend it. My son did this and he graduated his high school with 86 college credits. And so when he went into the University of Oregon, he was able to apply those credits, waive a lot of classes that he didn't have to take, which is basically free money. It's like a scholarship if you think of it that way. And really, he was almost about a year ahead of schedule, which really helps him now as he gets closer and closer to graduation. So I look at College Now and AP courses as a scholarship. They are basically free credits for you. With College Now, with AP, there is an exam that you have to take in order to get those credits. So that's something to keep in mind. Extracurricular activities. So I think it's really important for students to get involved in extracurricular activities. That could be, theater, it could be sports, it could be band, it could be the debate club, the chess club, whatever, the student union, Black student union, it could be anything. But getting involved with your school, it really does help you stand out, and it really looks good on your resume, scholarships, and things like that. I will say, don't just do any of this just to do it. Find your passion and do something that really gets you excited. I loved drama as a kid. And so I was in theater and I did choir and all of that stuff, and I swam. So you have to figure out what your interests are and then figure out what your school offers. I know it's a little hard right now with all of us distance learning, but I think that you can be one of those people that can kind of create something. Why should a club stop just because we're distance learning? Maybe you are the one that steps up and says, hey, can we have our meetings virtual? Can we figure out a way to still have our debates virtual, or chess club or something? So there's lots of opportunities, and you can be creative, and that will set you apart from others. So community service, I actually was just talking to my daughter about this over lunch, and the importance of giving back to your community, and what that does for you as an individual, but what that does for your community as well. And this again is one of those things that you have to decide what you're passionate about. If you really want to go serve meals at a soup kitchen, then that's what you should do. If parks are important to you and cleaning those up, then that's what you should do. If you love helping kids, then maybe finding a kid event that you can volunteer. That's what you should do. Community service should always be one where you're serving others that you're passionate about. And it's one of those things that makes you feel really good, and it looks really good for scholarships and on your resume. Work experience, not everybody is going to have the opportunity to have a job, but if you do have that opportunity, I love it when students have work experience on their resume. Work experience can also look different though. You might work at Crumble Cookie, which I would be really excited because I'd come get a cookie from you, but you might be one of those students that you're not able to actually get a job outside the home because you're helping watch your brother or sister. So then maybe you think about, you have you're babysitting, childcare, maybe you mow lawns, maybe you do a paper route. I don't know if that's still a thing. That was what my first job was. All of those things are work experience. Maybe you help your neighbor, you house sit, or you get the mail when your neighbor's gone, you clean houses, whatever it is, that's all work experience that you can put down on your resume. And then leadership involvement. So this is a big one because I think we often don't look at ourselves as leaders, but I think we need to. I think we need to be our own cheerleaders and find those opportunities to lead others, be an example, be a mentor. Maybe you're the president of your class. Maybe you're the editor of the school newspaper. Look for those opportunities. And especially if you're just, getting started in high school, this is a great opportunity for you to learn from others that are upperclassmen and see what you like and maybe can do down the road. And the last thing I'll say is, what makes you you? What makes you unique and different from everybody else? We all are special in our own ways, and that's what we have to find so that we can really shine those lights on those unique traits that we have, especially when we're looking at college applications and scholarships and different opportunities throughout our life. And I love this picture of this woman because I feel like she's my spirit animal, that face. Okay, so how do you set yourself up for success? Well, the first thing I will ask is, how committed really are you? So I will say that my two boys that are in college are completely different. I have one that was extremely committed and was in his counselor's office or college and career center every single day working on scholarships. And he has a full ride, 4 years at the University of Oregon. And I'm so proud. He did not listen to a word I said, but he was doing everything I said behind my back. And so that was commitment. I have another son who I love so much, was not as committed, applied for one scholarship. got that one scholarship, but he's actually getting school through grants and athletic scholarships. So different people, and it's both fine. One was very committed to, scholarships, and the other not as much. So if you're interested in getting a scholarship or getting as many scholarships as you can, what I will say is make it your job. Make scholarships your job. Do your research, explore opportunities, and gather that information. You can start that as a freshman, sophomore, junior. I have juniors that are applying for scholarships. They're making lists to get organized of the different scholarships that they can apply for next year. They're gathering the information now. So one thing that you could be gathering now is creating a list of all the activities that you've done. Volunteer work, paid work, extracurricular. You can be gathering all of that now, because what you're going to create down the road is called a brag sheet. And that's one of those things where nobody wants to be known as the person that brags about themselves, except when you're applying for scholarships. When you're applying for scholarships, you want to brag and share everything great that you've ever done. So getting that activity sheet now is really going to help you later on when you're like, what did I do sophomore year? It's really hard to think about, right? So we're going to create that now, put it in a Google sheet, and just keep adding to it as you develop throughout the years. You can also be gathering your transcripts, making sure you're on track, gathering letters of recommendations from people. Maybe it's a coach, a community member, someone through your church, Boy Scouts, family member. These are all great things to have so that when you need them, you can pull them out of your back pocket and have it to use, okay? So we talked about researching the scholarships. My school uses Naviance, but there's a lot of information on different websites, like the Oregon Goes to College, the Big Future website. Your school probably has specific scholarships for your school as well. So you'll want to, really get to know your college and career advisor and find out what those scholarships are. And then one thing that I will say is dedicate time every day to working on scholarships. And you don't want to spend hours and hours on it because you'll burn out. But even if you just spend 45 minutes a day on it, you're going to make some progress every single day. And when push comes to shove, you're going to have a lot more together than somebody who hasn't worked on it and is scrambling to get their essays done and things like that. Another piece of advice that I gave my son, and did not think he listened to me, but he clearly did, was apply for everything. My son received so many scholarships. It did not matter the amount. There was no scholarship too small for him. He applied for everything. He got turned down on a lot of scholarships, but he got a lot of scholarships, and he got really good ones that were renewable. So I will say, apply for everything. No scholarship is too small for you. No scholarship should be turned away. We talked about getting involved. I'm going to just say it again. Get involved with your school. Get involved with your community. Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, dance, soccer, whatever it is. Church, different things, everything you can get involved in that really gets you excited. Make sure it's something you're passionate about. Don't just do it to do it. And then we talked about volunteering, giving back to your community, and how important that is. Finding something you're passionate. I will just keep saying the same things. I'll be a broken record because it's so important. And just don't do it once just to do it. Do it often. Maybe think about it as 4 quarters in a year. Every quarter, make sure that you're doing something. Or if you want to do it more, you want to do it once a month. Whatever you have time for. But do it. It's important. Okay, this is my final slide. There is so much information on here, but these are my top tips for success. So motivate yourself early. So what that means is don't wait till the very last minute to do these things. Motivate yourself. Be committed enough to, get that stuff done as early as possible. What I'm telling my students right now is apply for the early application. Get it done, get your FAFSA done, get it out of the way so that all we have to focus on is scholarships. We've got OSAC coming up, we've got the university scholarships, the college scholarships, and then we have our scholarships. So the more you can get done ahead of time, the better. And again, set aside that time each week or each day to focus on your scholarships or your college applications or whatever you're working on at that time. If you have a mentoring program at your school, that is a great opportunity to schedule that time so you have somebody that's saying, okay, so last week we worked on this and you were supposed to do XYZ. Did you do it? Okay, great. Now the next step is this and that. And so it's somebody that's really pushing you when maybe you don't feel like being pushed. I know senioritis is a thing. I get that. I've been through it twice now with my boys, and really having somebody that's pushing you to, to be better and to be successful, even when you don't want to be. I know in my college and career center, I have stress snacks. I have chips and cookies and cocoa and all that kind of stuff. So if you're motivated by food, go get some snacks, whatever they are, and just sit down and put your head down and start working on that stuff. The other thing that I will say is fill your schedule, avoid those off periods. I know your junior and senior year, the last thing you want to do is go to school, right? But having those schedules filled with as many College Now classes as possible, those again are classes you don't have to take later on. It's really going to help you. And so I really would encourage you to try to have as few off periods as possible. All right, so the next one's a big one for me, stay organized. And that's gonna look different for everybody. So what does it look like for you? Think about that. Are you a pen and paper type of person? Maybe you need to get a planner. I know in my college and career center, I have planners that I offer to my students so that they can fill in information, important dates and things like that. Maybe you like lists. I love lists because I love checking things off. I have notebooks for my students that I give to them if they like lists. Maybe you're more of a Google Doc type person and you want to have everything electronic because then you can have it on your phone. You don't have to carry extra stuff. Whatever it is, I have templates for my students in our Google Classroom, for Google Sheets, and I just try to make sure that I have every resource I can think of so that it's one that works for them. If pen and paper doesn't work for you, then you're not going to do it. If technology doesn't work for you, then you're not going to do it. So you've got to figure out what works for you so that it'll click and that you'll do it. For me, I have to put everything in my calendar. Even if it's go for a walk with a friend, it goes in my calendar so I don't forget. I have to do a to-do list and look at that list every morning and check things off because it just makes me feel like I've accomplished and I can see what I've got done. You guys are no different than I am. You just have to figure out a system that works for you. Okay. The next tip is there are scholarships for everything. There is one if you're a vegetarian. If you're into zombies, there's a zombie one. There's a Coca-Cola one. There is literally one for everything. And you can research it. But again, if you have a mentor, they can help you find those. Your college and career advisor, they can help you. There are a lot of people that will support you through this process. And if you don't have anybody that's going to support you, you can email me and I'll support you, okay? But there is a scholarship for everything. So don't think, there's not one for something that you can apply for. There definitely is. I'll say it a million times, apply, 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 apply for every scholarship you can, okay? As long as you meet the requirements. If you don't meet the requirements, you might not want to apply for it, and spend that time. But if you're meeting those requirements, you should apply for it, okay? And if you're not sure, I would talk to your counselor, talk to your mentor, talk to your college career advisor. All right, I'm curious, how many of you guys have gotten letters of recommendations? This is something that I have been telling my kids since day one. Get those letters of recommendation requests in early, okay? That again is one of those things that you can use when I talked about earlier, the brag sheet. The brag sheet is something that you can give to somebody that shows all the things that you've accomplished. You can give it to them when you're asking them to write a letter of recommendation. Now, letter of recommendations, again, can be a teacher, it could be a counselor, it could be a coach, it could be a supervisor at work, a community member, it could be even a family member. Maybe you're working for a family member. It really just is somebody that can speak about you and your character. But you want to give these people enough time that they can write a really good letter of recommendation, one that you can use not just for applying for college, but for all the scholarships you're going to apply for as well. And keep in mind that not everybody is a really good writer. And so you may want to ask for about 4 or 5 different letters of recommendations. So when you get it back, you're not looking at it and it's got 2 sentences and you're thinking, I can't use this for my scholarship application. Once you get those letters of recommendations back, make lots of copies of them, keep them in a folder nice and neat. So when you do need them, you can pull them out. Okay. I give my students folders for all of the things that they need, their letters of recommendations, their scholarship, transcripts, their activity sheets, their resumes, so that it's nice and neat. And when they need it, they can just pull it out. Okay, so we talked about staying organized with a planner. This is also how I have my students track deadlines and have them keep a journal. And I've got a funny story about this. So with scholarships, I tell them to write down everything. The name of the scholarship, when it's due, what they need to turn in, what the scholarship amount is, and then a field at the end for if they receive the scholarship. Now, I told my son to do this and he didn't do it. And he got, I don't know, about 10 different scholarships. And when he went back to college, or when he went to college, his freshman year, he said, Mom, do you remember the scholarships that I received? And I said, no. And I said, you're going to have to go back to high school and ask your college and career advisor. And so he did, and that was a little bit embarrassing. So what I tell my students is keep a list, track it. That way, if the scholarship doesn't show up in your university account, you now can go back and look and say, okay, I didn't get the Rotary one. I didn't get the Elks one. They're not in the university. So I need to reach out to them and make sure they deposit those funds in my account. And it happens. And so tracking those, keeping that nice and organized is really going to help you and save you time later on. We talked about tracking those activities. Again, remember you're tracking activities from your freshman year all the way to senior year. So the earlier you start creating that list, I know you're thinking 4 years, it seems kind of crazy, but it's really going to be helpful. There's a lot to remember. You're going to be tracking all your meetings for, let's say you're on track and field. So all your practices, all your team meetings, all your meets, all those hours need to be tracked. Maybe you're in a musical at the school. All of your practices are going to be tracked. Your performances are going to be tracked. Maybe you're doing a tennis camp for kids through your tennis team. That's volunteer work. So that's going to be tracked. All of these activities, and that builds up your brag sheet that we were talking about before, and scholarship committees look at these. Okay, we talked about this earlier, Megan and I, that it's okay not to know. I don't know everything. I had a student email or call me yesterday asking me a question, and I didn't know the answer, and that's okay. You have people that are around you that will help you. And for me, I just let them know, I don't know, but let me look and I'll find out. So give yourself some grace and know you're not expected to know everything and that we're here to help you. Don't overlook anything and really keep an open mind. And what I mean by that is, there's a lot of people that just close off on applying for scholarships because they don't think they can get them. And there's a lot of times when after I've had that conversation and encourage them to do it, they end up receiving those scholarships. Keep an open mind that you have a story to tell and you have a lot of things that scholarship committees are really excited about and want to support you in your future, in your education. And so don't close yourself off to those opportunities. Have a positive mindset. I'm very positive. Even in this crazy time we're in right now, I really try to stay positive for my students, for my family, that we're going to get through this and we're going to make this the best year ever. And my seniors are like, but Miss Jessica, how is this going to be the best year ever? I'm like, because we're in it together. So same with scholarships. You're going to do the best that you can and make the most of this year, however it shakes out. Okay. Last piece of advice is just take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. We're going to get through this. and you're going to do amazing. So that is all I have for you. I did put my email up here. If you want to take a quick screenshot, go ahead. I am happy to connect with you guys and answer questions or point you in the right direction. But I just want to say thank you so much to all of you for joining live. And thank you to the U of O SAIL program for inviting me to speak with you. And I'm here for questions if you have any.
Oh my goodness, Jessica, that was amazing. I feel like I learned so much. So thank you for sharing so much incredible information with our audience and with all of us. Um, really just so grateful that you could come in and join us today. So we do have some questions for you.
Okay.
So I'll some of them you may have covered a little bit. Some of them you might not have gotten to. So feel free to add in whatever details seem relevant to you, and we'll see what people are curious about.
Okay.
So one we have is my school doesn't have a college and career center. So who can I talk to for help? I know my school didn't when I was in high school. So yeah, where should students go?
Yeah, that is a really good point. So I'm hoping that your school has counselors that can help with this. A lot of the counselors in my school are very diverse in all of this, and so I'm hoping that if your school doesn't have a college and career person, that you can go to your counselor and talk to them, and that they can help and support you. And if your school has an Aspire program, hopefully they can be a mentor. Someone from there can be a mentor to you and help you. Definitely, if you don't have that support within school, you will need to look outside of that and look into your network. And maybe it's a family member or, even a friend's parents can be helpful, because I know a lot. I actually have around my kitchen table my son's friends that come and ask me for advice. So hopefully you can find support within your school, but if not, reach out into your community.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Kind of on a similar theme here. Let's see. My parents didn't go to college, but they want to help me, and but they're super overwhelmed by all of the information. So where can they start?
Yeah. So it is overwhelming, especially if you didn't go to college and you're the first one. So what I will say, and I'm very big on this is your future. And so you really need to take the ownership with this, and definitely you like having that support from your parents or your whoever your guardians are is important. But I really want to encourage all of you guys to take ownership for this. And the reason for that is when you go to college, they can't help you with financial aid or any of that stuff. And so it's really going to be important for you to understand the FAFSA, for you to understand how your scholarships work, for you to understand all the requirements. And their job is to support you in this. And so hopefully you have somebody at your school or within your community that you can kind of lean on and help. And I also hope that your school offers some events for families. So for instance, I offer an event for explaining financial aid, an event for going over scholarships. I offer a military night. And if your school doesn't offer that, we can share with you my website, which has videos on all of these things that maybe your parents can tap into. I know SAIL is going to be doing a series of different workshops that they can join. So there's a lot of resource, a lot of support, whether it's virtual or live, and hopefully that will help you and your family.
That's fantastic. Thank you. So I think a question probably a lot of people run into: is it okay to go to college if I don't know what I want to study yet?
Yes, absolutely. It's interesting when I was a recruiter, of course, I was recruiting accounting students, but how many of them started off in a different major? I think it's really hard at, 18 years old to know exactly what you want to do for the rest of your life. I know I certainly didn't, and my husband didn't. And I think that's okay. I think, at first, what you're going to be doing is kind of those core classes, getting through those, taking your maths and things like that, your writing, and you'll figure it out. Once you get involved with school, you'll take a class that, my son took psychology and never took a psychology class before, and now he is minoring in that. He went in as an accounting major, and before the first class, he changed to a marketing major. So I think it's okay. And don't be hard on yourself that you don't know, because a lot of students don't know, and that's okay.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
So, what about the SAT and the ACT? Should I take them? Sounds like a lot of schools might not be requiring them anymore.
Yeah, so that's a really tough one, because right now most schools are kind of doing away with that. They're test optional. I don't know what that's going to look like in the future. What I don't know is scholarships. I don't know if a lot of the private scholarships are going to be test optional or not. And so that is, for us, I know last year they were very lenient with everything. I'm not sure after this year what that'll look like. So I know at my school, we have ours scheduled for February. Whether we are going to be able to take the ACTs or not, I don't know. Um, so I think that's going to be one that, right now I'm not advising my students to take it or retake it, because it is optional. But there might be a scholarship that requires it, and then you do need it. So that's a really tough question. I don't know if anybody else that's on the call has had any experience or working at the university, if you've heard anything. I just know that for getting into college, you're not going to be required to have those scores.
Yeah, I think Laura, you can certainly chime in if you know anything about this, but I think the advice I've heard is very similar to yours. Is if you're able to take it or you have taken it, do take that opportunity, because scholarships might rely on that. So I think that's a great piece of advice. Um, Speaking of scholarships, where are some places to look for the best scholarships and grants for college? I know you mentioned a few, but
Yeah. So OSAC is definitely one that I have a lot of my students apply for, and we've had success. There's some big ones like the Ford Scholars. That is a great scholarship if you're eligible for that. Big Future, they have a great list of scholarships, and Oregon Goes to College. I don't know why I always get tongue twisted with that one. Also, if your school has Naviance, that's where a lot of the college and career advisors will upload their scholarships for the community ones that might be specific for your school. It's also really good to look at the different credit unions and banks, because they offer some. Also, if your parents work somewhere, sometimes businesses will offer different scholarships as well. So, you just kind of got to do some Google search. I know my students have found ones that have been very unique to them and what they are planning to study in school, or an interest. Like I mentioned earlier, that vegetarian one, I use that one a lot because I'm vegan, and I thought it was amazing that they had a vegetarian one. I mentioned the zombie one. So there are a lot of opportunities out there. If you're on Instagram, I know that there's a lot of Instagram pages that share it, like Get Schooled. Again, Big Future, Oregon Goes to College, Gear Up, all of them will share different opportunities as well on their website, as well as on their Instagram pages.
fantastic. Those are all really great resources. Another question we have here is, will I still be able to go to college if I don't get the best grades in high school?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. There's something for everyone. I like to say that. And you can start off at a community college that everybody can go, and even I can go. And that might be something that we don't know what happens in individual lives, and everybody has a story. And so your path may be that you start at a 2-year school and then transfer if that's what you wish to do. You may be one of those people that I'm working with a student right now that is burned out. She's just with COVID, she's really having a hard time. And so she's going to take a year off and then go back. So there's different paths for everybody. Um, Sometimes it's harder when you take that time off to go back, but you have to do what's best for you.
Wonderful. I think kind of picking up on that thread of feeling overwhelmed or this obviously just being a really strange time for everyone. Um, we do have a question. So all of this college prep is really overwhelming. Do you have any advice for staying organized and on top of everything?
Yeah, so for me, I'm definitely a list person. I have to have a to-do list. And not just in my work, but in my personal life, I like that as well. I schedule everything into my phone. I mean, if I'm going to have a if I mean, this is kind of silly, but if I have to remind myself to pick up my contact lens, I will schedule that into my phone because otherwise I'll forget. I mean, there's so many things going on right now. So I love the technology of having my planner in my phone. Some people will prefer to have a planner as a notebook. You just have to figure out a system that works for you. But for me, I like lists and I like everything to be in my calendar. Everything. I even schedule my workouts.
I think that's awesome. So, kind of thinking about that sort of learning from home or maybe not having some of the same structures we normally do. What are some tips for just practicing good study habits at home when you don't have the school structure?
Yeah, so I will tell you guys all, I am actually a full-time student as well. I am back in school. And so for me, I've had to come back to um, you know, learning studying habits. And it is really hard. So you've got all these distractions. You can't really go to the library or the coffee shop like you used to be able to. For me, I have to set aside a certain amount of time every day. And again, I schedule it into my day. That is my time, and I have a specific area. We tell our kids at school, have a dedicated area that's for your classes. And so I have a specific area that is like, when I'm in that area, nobody can bother me. There's no TV, there's no music, there's no nothing, and I really just have to focus. And so for me, that works really well. But I also know that I'm kind of a squirrel, if you hadn't noticed. And so I need to take breaks. So after a certain period of time, I can't go more than an hour without, I got to get up, I got to move around, I got to just get some fresh air, and then I can come back and I can and work again, and I've got a fresh mindset and I'm ready to go. I really have to make sure that I don't burn myself out, that I'm not staring at my computer too long. Otherwise, it's just like glazed eyes, and that doesn't help anybody. So I would say definitely, trying to find a quiet space, and then definitely having those breaks in between is very helpful.
Awesome. And I think you're talking about extracurriculars and volunteering stirred up some some thoughts here. So
Okay.
right now, a lot of opportunities that people might take advantage of aren't available. Do you
Yeah.
have any tips for finding those type of either extracurricular or volunteer opportunities that people can do right now?
Yeah. So, I think that we have to kind of think outside the box a little bit. So I think that, thinking about things that you can do, creating maybe a fundraiser that you can do virtually. There's a lot of like runners maybe, and you're raising money for, whatever it is, the Red Cross. Let's just say that we've had a lot of fires here, some pretty big fires and evacuations and stuff like that. So I'm going to use that as an example. And so maybe you put together a run to raise money for people that were evacuated to give to the Red Cross or United Way or something like that. That would be something that you could do. You can still do a park cleanup. You can distance yourself and wear a mask and stay 6 feet apart and do that. So I think that it's just kind of thinking outside the box a little bit and being more creative than the normal. you could probably call, the Parks and Rec and see what opportunities they still have available. There might be meal distribution for elderly people that can't go get meals, and maybe they have a protocol where you wear gloves and a mask. But I know there's a Meals on Wheels here that a friend of mine did some volunteer work for them. As far as your school, I know as at my school, we're really trying to figure out how to keep clubs going. And so I mentioned before doing like the debate club on Zoom. My daughter does the Battle of Books. I'm not sure if you guys have do that or have heard of it, but they're doing that virtually this year. And so, just trying to think about how you can still do things in this kind of crazy situation. And Google is my best friend. It's probably seriously my best friend. I Google all the time to find out what other people are doing so I can do that here. And so maybe just asking, if you have friends that are out of the area, like what are they doing? And just kind of using those resources that you have. And again, just thinking outside the box and trying to be a little creative in these crazy times.
That's just fantastic, Jessica. I think good advice for everyone, I think, too, no matter what you're up to. Well, I think thank you for answering so many questions. And for everyone who's watching, if you just love listening to Jessica, which I do, we do have obviously her email address. Thurston High School has an awesome blog. They have a great YouTube presence, social media presence. So those are links that we can share in the description of this video too, so that you can follow along with everything that's going on over there. But I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming and spending some time with us. I feel really fortunate we got to have this great conversation.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Oh, thanks, Jessica.